Here we are at Magnolia Park. We thought about getting up super early and going out to the springs. And so we got our grill going. And we didn't want to get up that early. It's pretty cold this morning too anyway still. And we just didn't want to have to drive an hour and then try and come up with, sit there for a long time and all that. We were both tired. I've been carrying mail the last 6 days. She's been working. So we got up later, chilled out for a while at the house, and then we came out here. Got our chicken, got our rice, some hot dogs. I was gonna make a little video about, a couple of things I posted recently, about the whole sub-Saharan Mindanao thing and all that. And then I made a little video about some comments that this one person made talking about the women in Mindanao. Basically, like, I guess there are no professional, intelligent women in Mindanao to be had. The way she talked, you could tell she's pretty arrogant and stuck up. You can see that kind of prejudice that a lot of the people in the Mindanao talk about from people in Luzon or whatever, who for whatever reason think they're better than the people from Mindanao. But someone commented on the video, said, come on, you know what she meant. And talking about the old guys that go off and find these uneducated women that are totally dependent on them and that they can control. But that wasn't really what the woman said to start with. She was talking about, just made it sound like only, someone who's an idiot would go to Mindanao. All the good girls are somewhere else, I guess. People, you see old guys finding young girls that they can control all over the place. It's not just in Mindanao. In fact, Mindanao, back when I first went there, it's interesting, like a couple of my wife's friends, she was doing her last year of college at the time to be an English teacher. And when I first went over there and met some of her friends and all that, I was the first, first American that they had ever actually met in person, And it's different than that now. I guess when my wife went back over this last year, there's a lot more foreigners and stuff around now in that area. But, for a long time, foreigners weren't going to Mindanao to find women anyways. So that's kind of a silly argument like they're going to Mindanao to find people who aren't educated to keep under their thumb. And, there are plenty of them going to Dumaguete and shit like that to find those kind of girls. There was one guy in particular who's still around. He's become a little more circumspect about parading his little girls around in front of the camera. He's been married for a few years now and stuff. But I'll just call him Kermit, which was a name that someone came up for him. Used to apply to him on YouTube. But he used to make videos, talk about go hanging out the Why Not and picking up these young women. He used to put up videos. You see, them at the house chilling out. Here's a rainy Saturday at our house, and take her out to different places. And my God, the girl was like a 12-year-old, I'm sure that she was technically legal enough for him to be with. But this is a guy who parades himself around as some kind of a dating expert for other people, and that plenty of other people look to. That's why there's so many people in Dumaguete, in some, I would say, people seeing videos from him and others like him. But you see some of his videos, and that one girl he had, man, she was like a mentally challenged 12-year-old, the way she acted and stuff. But some guys are into that, and that's a valid point. But basically, this woman made it sound like, you're not going to find lawyers and doctors and engineers and stuff like that in Mindanao for some reason, I guess. So why would you want to get away from Manila when you can find all that stuff there and go off to the provinces, But I met an awful lot of really smart people in Mindanao, a lot of them. including the women. You know, the women are probably smarter than a lot of the men I met, to be honest. A lot of the men I met over there, you know, their only goal in life was to drink. So you find out a lot of places too in the Philippines, though, you know, a lot of these men, they're not the ones really running things. It's the smart women. And, you know, I did see some balut vendors around, but, you know, this idea that to like go over there and find some balut vendor or something, it was just a really insulting comment, not just to the women of Mindanao, but to us as men too, you know, just stupid. But the guy commented that I was kind of like, he thinks I'm influenced, you know, by my wife, and that I want to defend her and defend the Philippines and stuff. And, well, obviously, you know, people make comments sometimes, and I just think to myself, well, isn't that obviously the way it's supposed to be? I don't understand a lot of these guys anyways. They're in the Philippines, but all they do is bitch about the Philippines. So I understand apparently a lot of people, they ended up there because they're looking for a place to make their Social Security be enough to live on or something. And it's a nice, warm, tropical place, pretty girls and stuff, and nice beaches and things you can do, and that people speak English, and so that's why they end up there. More so than other places which are equally cheap. You know, you can go to Vietnam, Thailand, other places where it's cheap, you know, South America, Central America. But they want that tropical climate, that Southeastern Asian vibe, and at the same time, you know, you can get by as an English speaker. But it's amazing how many of them, it's almost like they're trapped there or something. You see the stuff they say and the videos they make, and all they do is bitch about things in the Philippines, and yet they're there. So I think it's kind of silly, but of course I'm going to defend the Philippines and, you know, my wife and the people there. You know, that's my family now, more so than my family here in America, who I hardly ever see anyways. And that's my future and my family over there. You know, those are the people that I'm actually more a part of their lives, and they're more a part of my life than, you know, my brother and sister and everybody. So yeah, I do feel a natural desire to kind of defend it. I mean, I have no personal stake in defending the Philippines against other people. Sure, there are problems there, and you can get into various different political things and so forth. I mean, things I watched as an outside observer for my whole life that going on in the Philippines, and things that a lot of us as Westerners would object to in terms of how things were run. But on the other hand, you come back here to America, places in Europe, others, you know, other countries, you could find a lot of stuff to complain about too. And you know, right now here in America, you know, you got, at any given time, depending who's in charge, you got half the people saying that things are being done wrong, and half the people saying things are being done right. And you just have to play your own hand and worry about your own life. And that's the way it is in the Philippines, you know. I'm not going there because, you know, to get involved in all the politics and all that stuff. There's nothing I can do about the politics in the Philippines, and all I care about is that's, you know, my family and the situation that I'm involved in now, you know, and that's just where my future is. But every time I've been there, I just feel at home, you know. I don't know if it's the people, the place, whatever, but I've just, I don't know, always felt like that's the place where I belong, more so even than here. Hopefully, maybe next year or sometime I can get back over there for another trip, spend a little time there, but before too long I'll be retired anyways and on my way back for good. See how things work out here with the political situation in this country. I'm assuming that my pension and Social Security should probably be safe, because hopefully these people, no matter how crazy they are smart enough, hopefully, to know that if they screw with that shit, there's going to be a revolution in the streets over here. and not too many people going to come out unscathed from that. But yeah, I suppose I do defend the Philippines and the people there, and the people of Mindanao specifically, since those are the people I know right now. As I say, I was originally involved with people from other places, like in Palawan and whatever. And everywhere I've been, though, I like it. So the people who are trashing Mindanao, I don't know if they've just never been there or if they really are just ignorant and prejudiced against the people there for some reason. Because even after all the horrible things I heard before I went there, and the fact that there are occasionally things that happen there that aren't good, I love it. And there are plenty of things happening to people in other places in the Philippines, nowhere near Mindanao, that are just as bad, The odds of going over there and being kidnapped and everything, all that kind of stuff, really pretty slim, Could it happen? Sure it could. I wake up here in Orlando every morning and see how many people have been shot overnight and so forth here in Orlando, So obviously it's different over there. Over here I can defend myself, but it's not like I really go out and walk around with a gun everywhere I go over here, I think people just too stressed out about shit. And a lot of this negative stuff you see on YouTube anyways, it's people trying to get views, how they're looking out for you and going to save you and make sure you're okay. And really they're just, getting people worried about shit that's never going to happen to them. Anyways, yeah, that's me, Kano Daily Defender of Mindanao.